There is a distinction here between Krishna consciousness and Maya consciousness. Guneshu or Maya consciousness involves attachment to the three material modes of nature, under which one works sometimes in goodness and knowledge, sometimes in passion, and sometimes in ignorance. These different qualitative activities with the central attachment for material enjoyment are the cause of one's conditional life. When the same Cheta or consciousness is transferred to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, or when one becomes Krishna conscious, he is on the path of liberation. So here in this verse, difference between conditional life and life in Krishna consciousness is being explained. When the living entity is attracted by the three modes of material nature, it is called conditional life. So here Prabhupada mentions that Guneshu or Maya consciousness involves attachment to the three material modes of nature, under which one works sometimes in goodness and knowledge, sometimes in passion, and sometimes in ignorance. Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita mentions that as living entities we are his amshas. Mamaiv amsho jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatana. And we are of the same quality of the Supreme. Sat, Chit and Ananda. But if we analyze our present state, it is quite in contrast to our original quality of being Sat, Chit and Ananda. Everyone is struggling. Some have realized it. Some are so much in ignorance that they don't even realize it. Prabhupada gives example of a hog living in a filthy place. Apparently it is happy. It doesn't even recognize or realize that it is so abominable condition. Sometimes we see people completely dirty, not taken bath, completely torn clothes, sometimes beggars, or people living in slums. When we see that, it's difficult for us to comprehend how they can live like that. Such dirty clothes, not taken bath, body is full of, you can see physically black layer on the skin. We can't even contemplate living like this even for half a day. So that is the meaning of conditioning. Conditioning means slowly you get used to. So Krishna says, Mamaiv amsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. We are his amshas, but under the modes of material nature, we have got conditioned and living a very, very abominable life. So when example is given just like a spark, when it separates from the fire, if it falls on dry grass, there is a possibility that it can again catch fire. The dry grass is conducive for the spark to ignite fire. So likewise, when the living entity is conditioned by the modes of material nature, but predominantly in Sattva Guna, the material energy acts through these modes. Sometimes Sattva Guna is predominant, sometimes Rajoguna is predominant, sometimes Tamoguna is predominant. So conditioned by Sattva Guna is like the spark falling on a dry grass. There's a good possibility that it will ignite the fire again. The spark becomes fire. So likewise, when we are predominantly in Sattva Guna, then we can cultivate devotional service, remembrance of the Supreme Lord, cultivate knowledge, and again revive our original consciousness, which is Krishna consciousness. When that spark falls on a wet grass, it very soon gets extinguished. It does not ignite that wet grass, green grass. So likewise, when the living entity, that Amsha of the Lord, is predominantly under the influence of Rajoguna, then that original consciousness gets extinguished. So in Kali Yuga, predominantly people are under the influence of Rajoguna and Tamoguna. And that's why Krishna consciousness activities has no relevance for them. It doesn't make sense. If you invite somebody for a Bhagavad Gita lecture, it doesn't make sense. Invite for a movie, invite for a cricket match, invite for IPL, people queue up. Makes sense. And then if that same spark falls on water, it gets completely extinguished. So likewise, when we are predominantly in Tamoguna, then whatever little bit we have consciousness of the Lord is completely extinguished. And conditional life in its full force becomes, so to say, comes about. Full force of conditional life acts on the jiva. So Krishna, in the conditional life, Mamaiv Amsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana Mana Shashta Indariyani, with the mind and the senses. These different qualitative activities with the central attachment for material enjoyment. Why these modes act? Why these modes overpower and subdue the original consciousness of the living entity? It is said, with the central attachment for material enjoyment. Same thing is mentioned in the Gita where Krishna says, Mana Shashta Indariyani. How do we enjoy? Through the mind and the senses. Because we have strong desire to enjoy independent of the Lord, which is also called lust. Atmendriya Priti. Because we have that strong desire for material enjoyment, and which is predominantly enjoyed through the mind and the senses, Mana Shashta Indriyani Prakriti Sthani Karshati, becomes under the influence of material nature and we struggle. With the central attachment for material enjoyment are the cause of one's conditional life. So Prabhupada says, if every one of us, we analyze what's happening in this world, people are struggling and everyone is trying to find solution to the challenges what they are facing. Individually, collectively, nationally, internationally. So there's a struggle for existence, different kinds of kleshas hitting the living entities, and attempts are being made to find peace, find happiness. So Prabhupada says, the whole world, people are very active to find solution to find temporary comforts. Like for example, somebody does not have a house. He will be struggling hard how he can own a house, take a loan from the bank, pay the EMI. Somebody who doesn't have a car, he's facing problem when it rains, he gets drenched, he is trying to get hold of a car. The cars are there, roads are not okay, the government is struggling. So, we are trying to find solutions to temporary problems, temporary comforts. But unfortunately, in conditioned life, completely bewildered, we are completely lost sight of the real problems, the real discomforts. We all are facing some discomforts and we are trying to find solutions, but those solutions are of temporary discomforts, which Krishna says will come and go, like the changing seasons, summer and winter. But the real discomfort for which nobody is anxious about or is trying to find a solution, which Krishna says is a subject of knowledge, is Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi. Because life after life we are caught up in the cycle of birth and death and taking material bodies, we have to face all these discomforts for which we are finding solutions. But in human form of life, we have the ability and opportunity to find solution to the actual problem, actual discomfort that the living entity which is implicated in the meshes of these modes, conditioned and taking birth again and again. There was one gentleman who helped us in the initial days of Akshayapatra. He was a very influential man. There is a committee at the national level which is chaired by the finance minister. And he was part of that committee, and many financial policies are reviewed, more so with respect to taxation in that committee. And since he was very, very influential and was very impressed by the Akshayapatra thing, he would invariably speak to some industrialists, influential people, and he helped us a lot. He would be he would have such, since he was in an influential position, he could call anybody, any industrialist. He could even call, let's say, Mr. Mukesh Ambani. Because financial policies which the government makes impacts all businesses. So they will have some relations. So he introduced some industrialists to us in the initial days. And somehow, we got busy and he got busy, and some of the connection for some time got lost. And then one day, he calls a devotee and says, Swamiji, when you come to Delhi, please try to visit my place. And the voice was very, very gloomy, sad. So the devotees tried to inquire, how are you? Long time, haven't met. Surely we'll definitely come to your place when we visit Delhi. And it so happened that next few days when the devotees were visiting Delhi, they visited his place. Mind you, we're talking about not an ordinary person. Sometimes, when an ordinary person faces some challenges in life, he's not able to find solution because he doesn't have money, he cannot afford treatment, already is in a financial mess. Here we have an example of a person who is very influential among the top brass in the country, makes national level decisions. So the devotees visited his house. The door was open. Some servant came and they invited the devotees inside. And this person then comes in limping very, very slowly. And then the devotees, and he sits in the drawing room on the sofa. And some of the devotees who visited him could not make out. Just a few years back, he was so much charged up, so much enthusiastic, full of enthusiasm. And here he is completely weak, frail, old. So then, in the course of the discussion, he says, Swamiji, he holds the hand and says, Swamiji, you all are very close to Krishna. You all pray so much. When you pray, please pray that I die very soon. So it was like, never expected these kind of words from a person. So he said, what happened? Why are you saying so? He says, Swamiji, what to say? Last few years my life has become a hell. He's living in a big palatial house in Delhi. servants are there, everything is there, all amenities are there. So my life has become a hell. So he says, somehow I have this severe backache. Tried all kinds of treatments. Continuously it pains. Can't sleep, can't sit. Any time of the day it pains. And now I am living for last few years on painkillers. And now a time has come, even the painkillers have become ineffective. Because the body gets used to. That's why many times the doctors prescribe a higher dose. And because of these painkillers which I have been taking every day, 8, 10, 12 tablets, all the organs are now, because of side effects, after all it's chemical, it's not, the body can't take it for a short while. So he says, because of that I have gastric problems, all kinds of digestion problems. So life has become hell. Swamiji, I wonder, what's the use of living like this? So these are the examples of how sometimes we get a feeling that yes, if somebody is rich, he's that way blessed, he can afford treatment, he can get admitted in the best of hospitals, he can have, But conditional life doesn't spare anybody. Prakriti sthani karshati. It's an illusion which makes us, no doubt, money has a place. Money can afford you it. Just like they say, money can buy medicines but cannot buy health. Some sayings are there. Money can buy home, money can buy house but not home. So there's a difference between the two. A lot of people living in palatial houses, but there is no homeliness. There is no cordial relationship between the family members. Fights are going on. So this is the meaning of conditional life, which irrespective of how much bank balance you have, what status you have in the society, you have to go through. So Krishna is inviting us in the Gita, giving us a solution how we can, as living entity, we are his amshas, we have a glorious position to enjoy in association of the Lord, to enjoy transcendental pleasure, real pleasure, and unfortunately, clouded by ignorance, we have settled down with such inglorious position. Deha apta kalatradishu atma sainyeshu asatswapi. We are so complacent, thinking that I am safe because we have a sainya around us. Deha apta, good body. Apta, relatives, friends, family members, acquaintances, well-wishers. Kalatradishu atma sainyeshu asatswapi. This atma sainya is asat. So here in this verse is saying, instead of being complacent, living a conditional life, but when the same consciousness is attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is situated in the consciousness of liberation. So one is conditional life, which is full of struggle, and when we start attaching our consciousness, which is attached now to material pleasure, material sense objects, when we start attaching that same consciousness to the Supreme, then doors for liberation opens. Slowly the conditional life, the conditioning which is there, the modes which are influencing us, pulling us down, starts losing their grip on the conditioned soul. When the same Cheta, the consciousness, is transferred to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, or when one becomes Krishna conscious, he is on the path of liberation. So we are now in a transition phase, actually, if we analyze. We are not fully Krishna conscious. We are not like Prabhupada, sent person, always acting for Krishna's pleasure, always remembering Krishna. And to some extent we are realized that we are in Maya. By Prabhupada's mercy we have started practicing principles of Krishna consciousness. Neither we are fully Krishna conscious, nor we are completely conditioned. Slowly, by practicing these principles, we are elevating from the lower modes and our consciousness is getting purified. The more and more we get purified, the more and more we will feel liberated. More and more we will feel free from the clutches of Maya, clutches of material existence. That's why it is said, a devotee, how do we know if we are also struggling, we are not happy, full of anxiety, then that means we are in clutches of Maya. Krishna consciousness, susukkum kartum avyayam, means when a person is Krishna conscious, dependent on Krishna, remembering Krishna, then he will be, one of the symptoms would be he'll be happy. Whatever is happening, Krishna is there. Krishna is taking care. Krishna is taking me through this. This reminds me, I think one time we have shared this example. I'll repeat it again. It is very relevant to what we are discussing today. One time a young boy goes to his grandmother's place. She was staying in some small town during his summer vacations. Unfortunately, grandmother can't spend much time with him. She was probably a writer and she was busy throughout the day writing some manuscripts, some books. Always scribbling something on the paper. So every time when he would clamor for attention, she would say, surely, I'll definitely spend time. And days rolled by. A time came when he had to now leave. So the grandmother also was feeling very sorry that she could not spend quality time with grandson who had come on vacation. But to compensate for whatever she could not do for the grandson, he says, definitely I should give him some memorable gift. And she called that grandson, says, I'm going to give you a very, very memorable gift. This will stay with you for the rest of your life. This important gift. So the grandson got excited. Maybe she's going to give me a bag of chocolates. Something which everyone has his own idea of what is important. So grandmother all along had been scribbling on paper with a pencil. She says, this pencil, which is very dear to me, I've been using for many, many years now, I want to gift it to you. So the grandson was, what will I do with this pencil? Dirty looking pencil. She says, this pencil I'm giving to you with 5 important lessons. And I'm going to share that lessons with you. Every time you see this pencil, remember those lessons. And if you follow these lessons in your life, you will come out to be a very, very successful person. The child became inquisitive and she started telling. The first lesson we can learn from the pencil is that although the pencil writes many, many things, like she said, the manuscripts, this is eventually going to get transformed in a book. It will be sold in huge numbers. Although the pencil writes many, many things, but at no point pencil takes the credit. It always remembers that it is in the hand of a writer. So we as devotees also many times will do wonderful things. Krishna says, I supply whatever devotee lacks, provide what the devotee lacks, and maintain what the devotee has. And sometimes it happens seamlessly. You require, in one sense, transcendental vision. It requires some element of humility to realize this. Otherwise, ahankara vimudha atma kartaham iti manyate. Whole world is very convinced that yes, I am doing it. And it makes sense because they can literally see that I spoke, I wrote, I did it, I convinced him. So, vimudhatma kartaham iti manya, it is very rampant, everyone thinking, just like, after the match happens, then somebody is given man of the match or somebody is given some prize and the interview happens, how did No, I thought, yes, I should bat very patiently, I should not hit, I should be there for the rest of the whole thing. All the people who bat, they think like this only. And then he'll glorify, I thought like this, and then I thought, no, I should. So everyone is convinced to the core that yes, I did it. Because of me, it happened. So whereas a devotee should always remember, I am just a nimitta, I am just an instrument. The Lord is the real doer. Which is not some psyching up, it's actually a reality. All the abilities what we have, all the strength we have, all the skills we have is coming from the Lord. Trillion brain cells we have, all of them are interacting coherently, producing some thoughts. Are we conscious control? Are we in grip of things? No. If something wonderful happens, we take the credit. Whereas Krishna consciousness means giving credit to the Lord. Consciousness of the Lord. He says when one transferred to the Supreme Person, when consciousness is transferred, where always one is conscious that the Lord is the doer, the Lord is the giver. Everything is, I am His Amsha, I am just Kshetragna. Kshetra belongs to Him. He is the proprietor. Bhoktaram Yagnatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. So this is first thing. Second thing, she says that the pencil allows from time to time sharpened. So we take the pencil, put it in a sharpener and sharpen it. The pencil doesn't rebel. Likewise, the Lord also, when we are practicing the principles of Krishna consciousness, Lord will take us through some situations which might be difficult for us to comprehend. Why me? Why it has to happen to me? I have surrendered to the Lord. I have done so much sacrifice. Krishna says He will protect me. What is happening to me? So devotee, one of the principles of surrender is, he is avashya rakshibi Krishna. He has that faith. Krishna is in control. Krishna is protecting me. He's sharpening me. He's taking me through this thing so that I can come out as better devotee, so that anartha nivritti happens. Third thing, she says, the pencil always allows, by chance the pencil writes something, it allows an eraser to erase what it has written and correct. So we as devotees also should be humble enough to be corrected. Many times we are very obstinate, we are very, very so rigid about our opinions. We are very sure many times that what I am thinking or what I am doing is the right thing. But if we little bit introspect, when we were young, we were thinking in one way. When we grew up, our thinking changed. What we thought as very, very important, now if we look back, we realize how immature I was, how inexperienced I was, how I was thinking like that. We had some goals in life. We were very, so to say, passionate about achieving those goals. If I look back and says, this was, what was I thinking? So as we grow, as we become more experienced, as we become more mature, we will realize that even my thinking, my opinions were wrong. And sometimes we are not humble enough to accept that. We are very rigid about our thinking, rigid about our opinion. And even if someone corrects it, even if someone points out some lacuna, some shortcoming in our perception, in our thinking, we are not willing to accept. Fourth thing, the pencil teaches, no doubt these days we get pencils of different colors, shapes, size. If you see, go to a particular stationery shop, you'll see different kinds of colors of pencils, shapes, sizes. Chota beam pencil, you'll have little Krishna pencil. No matter what the size, shape, color of the pencil is, what is really important, what actually is important is what is inside, not the externals. So likewise, as devotees or in the conditional life, we are very externally focused. All related to the body, complexion, beauty, bank balance. But what really matters is what is inside. Jesus said, what profit the man if he wins the whole world but loses his own soul? What is really important is the soul. Prabhupada says, when the soul leaves this body, this wonderful body which we have, cosmetics, all beauty salons, kept it so nicely, worked, keep it healthy, just burnt. It's buried, it's cremated. What is really important is the soul. And you see how conditional life means we're completely oblivious of the soul, completely busy taking care of the body, bodily pleasures. And the last thing we can learn from the pencil is that it always leaves a mark. So likewise, as devotees, we have to be very cautious, careful, discriminate, and act responsibly. Conditional life means acting recklessly. I don't care. They openly say, just do it. Dekhi jayegi. These days, we all have heard in newspapers, molestations, rapes, it's on the rise. Sometimes I wonder, they know the consequences. But that madness which sets in for that momentary pleasure, a person is willing to do such a heinous thing, knowing very well that he will be caught and life will be messed up. So everything leaves a mark. We know the stringent laws of nature, the laws of karma. So devotees, we should be very, very act responsibly, act with discretion, with caution. We should be careful we don't commit Vaishnava Aparadh. We don't commit offenses. Constantly some kind of introspection, constantly some kind of checking should happen. So when we lead a life responsibly, trying our best, sincerely following the principles, wherever pointed out that there is some shortcoming in my behavior, in my attitude, I try to, rather than justifying it, I try to correct myself. I try to improve myself. Yesterday we were having some discussion regarding some related to Akshay Patra. So in the discussion it came up that, generally every company, every organization has some. And this gentleman, he's a very experienced person. He come from Mumbai with me. He has been, head of many big companies, Colgate. So he was telling, Swamiji, when these internal auditors come and they point out some mistake, we don't take them seriously. Many times we think that they're pointing faults. He says, actually, I have realized over many, many years, I've learned the hard way. Actually, they are our friends. They're pointing out our improvement areas. They're pointing out the weaknesses which we have to improve on. But people treat them like enemies. People treat them that they have come to point mistakes. It all depends on how you perceive. Says if we treat them like they have come, they are our friends, they are well-wishers, they are coming and correcting us, they are pointing out what is lacking in us, in our operations, in our procedures, in our processes. And if we take their suggestions seriously and improve, then we can do very well. So same is the case as devotees when somebody points out some shortcoming. Rather than justifying, conditional life means we justify. We say, no, it's not true. How can you say that? And then we in turn point your mistake, the other person's mistake. What adhikar you have to speak like this? Have you seen this thing? So, if we are always in the mode of introspecting, correcting ourselves, improving internally, improving our consciousness, remembering Krishna, then in fact we can be so busy that we have no time to point out others' mistakes. We have no time for fault finding. Many times when we are fault finding, we are very externally focused, we are not internally focused. No doubt as authorities or as leaders, sometimes it's a thankless job to point out faults as a service to the other devotee. But we all like this service very much. Right from the beginning stage we want to do this service. So if with this spirit, if we practice the principles of Krishna consciousness, here it says Chetaha, when it is transferred to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then one becomes Krishna conscious and his path for liberation opens up. So we'll stop here. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki.